agents that do everything for you. It's the promise floating across every tech headline. AI agents that write your emails, code your website, manage your calendar, make your decisions, answer your phones, book appointments, basically run your life. While you do exactly what? Sip margaritas on the beach? Sounds amazing and enticing. A very seductive vision, but also dangerously misguided. Welcome to Continuing the Conversation. I'm Shalene, and today we're challenging perhaps the most persuasive myth in AI. The ultimate goal is that AI completely removes human effort from the equation. But what if this do everything for you promise isn't just unrealistic, but fundamentally misunderstands how valuable it is to keep the human in the equation? What if using AI effectively requires more thoughtful human effort, not less? To help us unpack this counterintuitive paradox, I am thrilled to welcome Rob, the CEO of CharmIQ. Rob, always a pleasure to have your perspective that turns conventional wisdom on its head.
Thank you. Great
Well,
to
let's
be
get
here.
started. This is a seductive promise, versus the uncomfortable reality that I think most people feel today. So AI agents that do everything for you is everywhere, from ads to product launches, venture capital pitches. Companies are racing to build AI that automates away the human. But what if that human piece is fundamentally the most important piece of AI? And what's the disconnect between this marketing and reality? It's a heavy question, a lot to unpack. So help us sort of navigate this overall thought process with AI automation.
Absolutely. Thank you, Shalene. Always great intro. I appreciate those thoughtful questions that you bring to this. You have to imagine that an easy sell for a lot of companies, you don't have to think too much, is to just simply tell people that whatever you're giving them is going to solve their problems. They do it with Coke. They can do it with a hairbrush. We're really good at selling things to solve your somehow life's problems. And so it's interesting that people, again, it's just natural for people to apply it here in AI. And of course, it's absolutely unfounded. We are not yet at a point, and we won't be for a while, we got a few years still to go. There are only a very few use cases where you can drop in AI and immediately solve a problem for you. For example, just to make one of those concrete, image detection, it was always a thing where if you had a picture with a bunch of stuff in it and you're like, how many dogs are in this picture kind of a thing. That has been worked on for decades now. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to say that it's a solved problem, but you can definitely take what you were doing before, drop in one of these solutions, one of these modern AI models, and you can get something really, really good really quickly. And so that's a very tactical use case of something where you were already doing this job. You were already trying to automate this job. And it's simply taking a tool like you had like Tesseract or something that was already in there and you're replacing it with this. So it's not replacing a job that was there, et cetera. And I think this is going to be pretty much where we're at for a while now. These models just aren't that capable to do these things and they need direction. So that's the first thing, which is, those are the first two things, which is people love to sell this way because it's super simple. It's going to solve all your problems. It's not. We all know it, but somehow we keep believing it. Just because I drink that Coke Classic does not mean I'm going to have a better day. It just means that I have slightly longer to run on the treadmill tomorrow morning. The other thing, again, is there's very few use cases where it is just a drop-in replacement. Believe me, you'll hear it when it is true, so don't think too much about it. So the way to think about this stuff is it can augment right now you. And I find so few people using it in the augment capacity. Everyone's trying to use it as a do this for me, as we've talked about in the past. We've had our whole, like ordering at a drive-through window. This isn't where this is. And again, I would encourage you to think about what the world is going to look like when that is true. And we should already be electing leaders and talking about regulation and things like that paint a future that we want. So just as my calling out to a lot of folks is spend the next time where you have your cup of coffee or you're drinking your Coke or you're using that hairbrush that was supposed to solve all your life's tangles and think about what that world would look like if it was in fact where you could just go to a thing and just say, go do this. And it would just go do that. Like what do you want from that world? So I'll just put that aside for a second and say, we're not there and we won't be there for a little while, but now is definitely the time to think about it. But, again, when it comes to what should you be doing with these things and how should you be thinking about them is really helping you along. What can it do well to help you think about what you're doing today, and how can it partner along with you? I'll leave it there. Hopefully your next questions bring up the...
Yeah. I think that you're hitting on something I find really fascinating about this kind of paradox, the corporate automation obsession. I talk to a lot of companies, a lot of executives, a lot of people at companies, and they're aggressively pursuing autonomous AI agents to automate away jobs and human involvement. But is this even like the right goal? Should businesses be focusing on AI that replaces humans or AI that amplifies humans? And I love this question, so I'd love to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah. What's interesting, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I'm going to pick on managers now and just say, I just don't think that they have a few tools in their tool belt. And one of those tools is this whole notion of like automate, like we need to get rid of staff, like, cause everything's getting more expensive and profits aren't getting any better. So the way to make profits is potentially either make people more effective or get rid of people. And the way you get rid of people is by automating away their job, right? And so those are kind of the tools. And I would just say lack of imagination is preventing people. I'll just say I have never found it to be, in all of my years in work, that it was only through HR requirement that you were put on a performance improvement program. And usually those things are a load of poo, and it's just literally a way to document the way that you're going to get that person out the door. But no one ever really spends the time to provide the skills that they think that you're lacking. Right. And it's interesting because I'm sure there's lots of studies around, blah, 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 and that you can think about. But again, it's interesting that you have a tool in your tool belt, which is you can either level up your existing staff or you can automate away your existing staff. And I would highly encourage leaders over the next couple of years is to not get rid of people, but instead figure out how to amplify those people, make them much more efficient, even if that means sitting down with them at their desk in a non-critical manner and just simply helping them go through their daily tasks and see where things might be made more efficient. I guarantee you that you will find massive efficiencies in doing that. And again, it's not an exercise of, oh, gotcha, I found out where that thing was that you were doing, or maybe you took too many coffee breaks. Because I would just say the reason people take too many coffee breaks is because their job is boring and it sucks. Yeah. So make their jobs more interesting.
Yes.
So anyway, I believe that the right answer is always to amplify your staff. And the reason for that is what I said earlier, which is to bring in new staff takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of energy, and it's a whole different skill set. Taking the people that you have and leveling them up or amplifying them or just making them more productive, not in the work them harder kind of mode, but again, in terms of alleviating some of perhaps the cognitive load that may be part of their job. Maybe those are aspects of it that can be automated with AI, meaning it's not automated, it's just giving you ways to take a lot of information and distill it down to something much more palatable. Yes. Again, I would highly encourage those things. That the reason, and this is an idea that I constantly have in my head, and I think people forget that everyone has the same models. So there's a lot of models now. Just to digress for a brief moment, I remember less than a year ago, we were really only talking about 2 or 3, maybe 4 models. And now in Charm, for example, we have well over 30 models that are regularly in use. And that's crazy. But even with 30 models, everyone has the exact same model. So think about your laptop. Everyone has the exact same laptops. The reason that your company is different than a lot of other companies, it's not because you're using the same laptop. It's how you use that laptop. Mm-hmm. So the same thing is true with your AI. If you use ChatGPT and you're just asking it, barking at orders, and it's giving you back stuff, it's barking it's yelling back those same responses to everyone else. You're not doing anything interesting. So what makes that different? What context have you provided that? What care and feeding have you put into setting up the environment, your system prompts, and all of these things? Again, it all comes down to context and what type of questions are you asking. If you're again, you're getting the same response. There's no differentiation. So if you think you're going to automate away a big chunk of your business, everyone's going to do that. Like you're not going to gain any efficiencies there. So again, look, enhance and amplify your existing staff, because you are going to find the reason why your company does what it does and performs the way it does, and why your customers buy your products and not your competitors' products. And
Right.
it's about the people. So support them.
Rob, this has been genuinely mind-shifting. You've challenged us to see beyond the seductive, yet ultimately hollow promise of AI agents doing everything for you. So thank you. And for everyone watching, I hope this conversation will change the way you think. And as always, we would love to hear from you. Please engage with us, comment, like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you next week. Thanks, everyone.